This morning we have with us Michelle Grosek, and she is from Bear Butte Gardens in Sturgis, South Dakota. And in their farm store, they use Square as a point of sale system. So, as the beginning of our non-cash payment webinar series, Michelle is going to tell us a little bit about Square and how they use it at Bear Butte Gardens. So, Michelle, my first question for you is to just explain a little bit about how you use Square for your business. Is it just in the store, or do you also use it for invoices or payments on the go using the hardware on your cell phone?
Yes. So first, thanks for inviting me to do this. And I think maybe my husband kind of volunteered me a little bit, but that's okay. We use it in all of those ways. So I started out using Square to do sales at a little farmers market that we had in Sturgis here, and as well to just sell things out of our garage as we were doing it at the time, before we had our farm store on the farm. And that it's always worked well for me. So at first I just had the little, I'm sure you guys have all seen these, the little tiny, I think they call these dongles or something like that, that you just put, at the time, you could plug into your phone. My phone doesn't have that little jack anymore to plug in. And now I think they have maybe lightning wire or something like that that you can use if you just want a simple one like that. And I still see that kind used. And then, so for years, it was just through my phone and to do kind of remote sales, I guess. And then as we built the farm stand here, then we researched some other products as well and decided that so far we've had really good luck with the Square point of sale, the limited experience we had with the point of sale system. And so we would just go ahead and get a larger system in our farm store here. And we have, you know, kind of the standard one that I guess you see like at coffee shops, that sort of thing. And it's called the register, Square Register. So it's not an iPad that you put on a stand. It's actually like a dedicated screen, register screen, and it's two-sided. So we have the employee side and then the back side of it, which can be removed, or it can just be attached on the back side is a screen so that the customer can see all of their items that are being purchased, just like in a grocery store. And then there's a slot to insert their card and pay, or they can do the tap option. And of course you can do sales over the phone and put in, you know, the credit card numbers that way. We also use the invoicing system quite a bit for as small of a business as we are. We rent out our kitchen. And so that's how I send out you know, that's how I get payment from the kitchen renters, because sometimes they're in on hours that I'm not here, and they typically pay for a month in advance, a month of hours in advance, maybe like 20 hours at the beginning of the month. And then their hours go on that's how they reserve their space on the calendar for our commercial kitchen. And so that just goes out through an invoice that I can do at our point of sale system. I can do it on a desktop. I can do it on my laptop. I can do it on my phone. Like I can do pretty much everything on my phone. And it's just a matter of kind of navigating your way around that app on your small little phone screen. But it works very well. And lots of times I'm sending out invoices and doing inventory and all of that on my phone. Trying to think what the rest of your question was. Oh, when we do a say like a farm to table dinner here, we'll actually put our main point of sale out on the patio for the person that's running the cash bar out there. And then I will just have so far the way we've done it is I just have my phone inside the farm stand, because either before or after the farm to table dinners, people always want to come in and buy a few products out of the farm store as well. And so we need that second point of sale really to not have kind of an awkward line built up. And you know, people want to get beer at the cash bar. I don't want to slow that process down by selling someone else potatoes and you know, ground beef or something. So so we split it out, and I'm typically the one that's on my phone, or if I have another person here that's pretty handy with using the phone app, then we get it on their phone, and then we just either do the little, now we have this upgraded version that you guys have all seen of the little card reader, and just either use that, or it have to be just enter the cards manually, but you pay a higher transaction fee on that if you put the number in manually. So did that cover most of the question?
Yeah, it did. It sounds like the way that you can move those around, it's pretty flexible.
Yeah.
The next thing that I'm wondering if you can just talk about some of the pros and cons of Square that you have come into contact with as you've used it.
Okay. For the most part, I'm a big believer in Square. I started out with it, kind of on the early end of Square acceptance, I think, when I was just using it at the farmer's market and that sort of thing. And let me back up here. Right now, I don't accept SNAP or EBT, but that's something that I do want to get back into. But when I was participating in the farmer's market originally down in Sturgis, so that was about a decade ago, and I got a card reader through state, I don't remember what, it's probably like especially crops or some sort of value added local foods grant that paid for me to get a card reader to be able to accept EBT and SNAP, because that was the only way you could take it at that time. And I don't know now if you can take it through Square or not. That's something I guess I'll find out soon. But I had my Square card reader for doing most purchases at the farmer's market. But then if somebody came with their SNAP or EBT card, I couldn't do that through the Square, so I had to do it through the card reader. And at that time, the market was like right down across from where the community center is, kind of next to Rocking Tree, Floral and Garden in Sturgis. And that was a dead spot for cell connections. And so I could never get that card reader for EBT to work down there. And it was a very small market. We only did it, I think, for one summer in that location. And but it was frustrating. I didn't have a lot of customers come through, but I also couldn't really advertise it out strongly. I felt like, because the card reader that was sent to me, I think worked off of AT&T maybe. And that's just, at that time, wasn't a strong service in Sturgis, especially in that location. I still have problems in that location in Sturgis with all the upgrades to cell towers and everything. And so Square always worked. And, but then I had so many issues with that card reader. I could run it out here at our farm, which is 5 miles out of town, but I couldn't do it in the middle of Sturgis. And so that was frustrating to me. And eventually, our farmer's market in Sturgis was very hot and cold. Some years we do it, some years we wouldn't, because Raleigh's always in the middle of it. And so I just discontinued my SNAP registration, I guess. And so now I need to get that restarted again. But so that was my first experiences with Square, was that it worked seamlessly. And then other things did not so much. But with our farm stand, it's been good. I think their fees, they're definitely all over the place now. You see Square everywhere. So it's probably a little more expensive now to get into it. And like our point of sale system was, I don't remember, somewhere probably between $800 and $1,000 to get that in place and everything in the store here. But I can still just do everything with the little card reader if I want to, which I think was like $10 when I got that. And then of course your transaction fees. So I haven't sat down for a while and compared side-by-side transaction fees with all the different customers or all the different companies. So you guys probably would have more information about that than I do. But overall, I'm very happy with Square. I think in the 3.5 years we've been running it here in the store, I've just had 2 times when it's been down, just like completely down, and I couldn't do stuff with it. I could still utilize it remotely, with like offline. So if somebody came in, I could put their sale in and everything. It just wouldn't run it then until everything at the national level came back up.
That's nice to know that it works still when it's down, at least for sales.
Yeah.
You had mentioned a little bit about the fees, and I know that with Square, there's some parts of it that are free, and then there is also services that you can upgrade. And I'm curious with your experience if you've just stuck with the free version or if there's any of the added options that you find useful.
Let's see, we do their loyalty rewards program. And there's a lot of different variations of that, but we do utilize that in our stores. So the way we do it is it tracks every purchase that a customer makes. And, so it keeps an inventory of your customers that want to sign up for the rewards program. And then either they can sign themselves in on their side of the register, or we can sign them in during the sale. And it also will pick up if they use like the same card every time. It will automatically detect that and then say, we've given you 32 points for, and we just do like dollar per point. So if they spend $32, they get 32 points. When they get 500 points, they get $10 off their next purchase. So so we pay for that service. That's a monthly fee. And for a while we were also paying for, I'm trying to think if right now we have our online store part of it up and going. During COVID we did more, and then I think we kind of phased it out, our online store. There was some fee associated with that, and I think we discontinued that. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Like we don't do like employee clock in, clock out. You can do all of that on there too if you want to. I don't know really how that pertains to a farmer's market. Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe with a farmer's market itself, you could, somehow do some tracking with all of your different vendors. I don't know, but you can add on a lot of things. You can have it to keep track of your payroll and an awful lot of things, but we don't do the majority of that. We just have one. I think right now just the rewards program is our additional add-on.
Nice. You said that you had kind of stopped using the online store. Was that just because you found you were making more sales in person?
Yeah. We just, we kind of got it all up and rolling, thinking, well, with COVID, thinking people may not want to come out here in person. They might want to just see everything online and then do like a curbside pickup or delivery, that sort of thing. So that was part of it. Also, we didn't have enough staff to actually do delivery at the time, not regularly. If it was somebody that just like couldn't get out of their home because of a handicap or something like that, I'll always take the time and go do that. But it is kind of like, well, how big do we want to do this when we don't really have a lot of extra staff too? And so yeah, we did it was mostly because people they were comfortable, I guess, coming out to the farm during COVID. They felt that was like a little excursion they could do, and there wasn't going to be a store full of people here, and they could, they could face mask, we could face mask, all of that stuff. We're pretty conscientious about that. So yeah, it just wasn't, it didn't seem to be a critical part of our sales at the time. So that's why we don't keep up with it, I guess. And the other thing was that with produce and with meat, you've got all the individual poundages, ounces, all of that to enter into an online inventory, an online store. And, so lots of times how you see that with like meat is that if you're buying a steak, it's going to be one price for a range of ounces or something like that. Or that people can order it and then you have to put in your exact weight afterwards and send them kind of an after the fact invoice to pay to get the exact weights and stuff in there. And so much of our stuff is produce and meat for the most part, that is like, well, we only really have half of our inventory in here, or less, like maybe a third of our inventory of things that are just actual price on the shelf, straightforward. So
Yeah. You had also mentioned a little bit about the card fees and how it was more to enter the card number manually and things like that. I know that with Square, it is an option to pass that card fee off to the customer. And I'm wondering if that's something that you've ever looked into or considered, or what made you decide either way to do that or not do that?
yeah, so we have not done that to this date. We, I guess, probably discuss that kind of as a small team about once a year, if that's something we want to do. And we kind of look back and see what all of our transaction fees have been, if that's something that we feel we want to add on. There's a lot of restaurants that now, if you pay with a card, then they add on an additional 3% or something like that. But we haven't yet. And I don't know. That's a hard one for me to want to do. I feel like our sales are definitely higher because we accept debit cards and credit cards. And so to add on an additional fee to do that, I don't, I guess that's a year by year basis. We'll kind of keep revisiting that and make that decision. But we haven't yet. I don't think in the near future we would do that.
Yeah, so your thoughts is kind of that by adding that fee, you might actually take away from your sales.
I don't know. I don't know if it would or not. I guess it always kind of gives me pause when I'm at a restaurant and they say, oh, you're going to pay this much more because you're using a card. And my thought always across the board is just add an extra $1 onto your products, or 50 cents or whatever it is you need to do. To me, that makes more sense. It's just up your baseline rate a little bit instead of adding on a fee at the end. It's kind of like not being a member at Sam's and they add on, it's like, but I don't know. That's just me. So.
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering before you said that, do you find that when you look at those transaction fees at the end of the year or the end of the quarter, do you find that plays a role in your pricing?
Yeah, a little bit it does. If the transaction fees are going up, then it's possible that it would be a slight amount that we would increase. But I think we probably determine our pricing a lot more from our cost of goods sold, just for our actual product, not the sales fees, than we do anything else.
So my next question, and I believe that you said aside from the SNAP and EBT reader that you used at the farmers market, you hadn't used another point of sale system, but you did mention kind of researching them when you were choosing Square. And so I'm wondering if there's any other systems that you found were a close runner-up, or any of the features of Square that really sold you.
I'd have to say no. I haven't, because that was a long time ago. I mean, it was a decade ago, and there are so many more systems now than there were then. We did have a lady come out when we were first, probably about a year into the farm stand or 6 months into it, and wanted us to start up another system. She was kind of like a local salesperson for that system. And that was kind of her push, was that, well, I'm local, you'll have a local person to talk to. But when we sat down with her and threw at her like all the various different things that we do with Square, which I feel are pretty minimal really compared to how it can be used, there was going to be a lot of additional fees on top of her base rate that she was throwing at us would save us so much money. And really she came back with, yeah, wasn't really going to be a money saver for us either. And so it's probably about once a year if somebody come and say, oh, I've got another system that could save you so much money. And so then we kind of start talking about it. And usually we just kind of make the decision, no, we're going to stay where we're at. But I can't really even give you names of those, because that's once I make that decision, no, we're not doing it, then it's just kind of like purge that out of memory and move on. So
Definitely. You had mentioned that one of the points that representative was trying to sell you on was like the local service. Have you ever had to use the customer service through Square?
Yeah, we have. And so I guess when we were first setting up the system was when we used customer service the most on it. And so it wasn't me. I had an apprentice each, a couple different times who like really helped with getting everything set up. And so I could spend time out in the gardens growing stuff. They were doing that. But I know that they always came up with an answer, whether it was just through online conversation with a representative somehow, or just Googling it. And whenever I've had a question myself, I just go out. I'll kind of work my way through the help within Square, the frequently asked questions, and then I usually just go to Google and I just Google my question, and I find it somewhere like in a forum about Square that's not necessarily by Square, but it's about Square. And there's so many companies that are small businesses that use it that it's pretty easy to find the information that you need. So we've never had anything that just brought us to a standstill or that we just couldn't figure out, even when our system has gone down completely. And I just go online and do a Google search, and it's like Square system down and doing this, and it'll be like, yep, it's nationwide. And so and then I'll usually get a message from Square directly after that says, just to let everybody know, this is a nationwide issue. We're on it as fast as we can. And then it comes back up within a few minutes usually. So
Good to know. Kind of moving past the accepting payments, I know that Square has a lot of reports available for its users, and I'm wondering if you find these reports helpful, or if you have any suggestions for people who might be new to using the reports in Square.
yeah, I do use the reports a lot. I'm a very visual person. I like to see graphs of things, and I like to compare today's sales to or like Mondays to Thursdays, Wednesdays to Saturday, whatever, just week to week, to see which days are the busiest, which time of day is the most sales. I also like to compare like this week to the same week last year. You can do like all of your your monthly sales tax filing. You can just pull up your Square report for the month, and easily, even though we have some things that are taxed, and then of course some things that are not, since we sell to wholesale to sometimes like food truck vendors or shops or something like that are going to turn around and add tax onto their product. And then our kitchen rental as well, so I can easily sort that out on Square. And I appreciate that a lot. But what I really love about it is just being able to go out and compare like year to year to year, how are sales doing easily. And that's super easy. I can do that on my phone too. If I just happen to be sitting waiting for an appointment or something, it's like, hey, how it seems like it was a little slow this year. This week, how was it last week? Or sorry, this week, this year, how was it this week last year? And maybe like right before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving, slow or busy or whatever, and I can see it, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, good to know. And from event to event, like farm to table events, that sort of thing, I can easily look and see what was our alcohol sales for this group. And it's interesting that one group will be a lot more beer, another group will be a lot more wine. So that doesn't help you out at all really to plan ahead. But I like those little bits of information, those little details. And so I really love the reporting side of it for many reasons.
Nice. My last question before we open it up for questions is just if there's anything that I missed about your experience, or if you have any general advice for a specialty crop producer that is either in the process of choosing a sales system or is very new to Square.
Well, I mean, I think do your research. And like I said, I'm just kind of basing uh my longevity with Square and my opinion on it based on my personal experiences so far, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best product out there for everyone. And like I said, also there's a lot of products right now. Every coffee shop I go to and different vendor fare and such, I'm seeing different products. And so do your research and find the one I think that makes the most sense to you and use that. I think there's pros and cons to as a company gets bigger and bigger, like Square has done. When I first started out with it, people were still a little skeptical about it. I mean, I remember the first time I went in, I think the first time I went into a coffee shop and they were using Square for payment was actually in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and we went to the what was called the Moses Organic Conference at that time. And it was like a little tea shop, and it was this little Asian lady that came out and she was using Square. And I was like, wait a minute, this is like, we're not doing this in South Dakota yet. Nobody trusts, these little point of sale systems or card readers on a phone. And from there, man, it's everywhere. And so I'm happy with the company. It's definitely, I think things maybe are, some of their rates and stuff are probably a little bit more now than they used to be, but it's a competitive market out there and they're kind of expensive with other companies too. So I think just do your research though. I think it's good. I'm happy with the product. I'm happy to answer any specific questions someone might have. If you want to deep dive into downloading data and all of that, I'm not the person you need to talk to Rick about that because he enjoys that and I don't. I'm not a tons of data on a page sort of person. I like pretty graphs. So that's where I'm at.
Well, thank you for answering the questions and helping contribute to that research. If anyone has any questions, you can unmute yourselves and ask, or you can feel free to put them in the chat. And Rick, Michelle's husband, he usually does attend our meetings. So if you have any questions after today, or you are curious about the downloading of data and those things, I can absolutely connect you with him, or we can have further conversations about this at other meetings. But as far as the generals of Square or using it on the customer side, does anyone have any questions?
Does anyone know if can you accept Snap through Square now, or do you have to have a separate card reader?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
Michelle, I've looked into that, I think, before, but I don't recall. I think I'm inclined to think that it does. But the one that always comes up is that Total Pay Go, but it's an app. So there might be a link there even. I forget, but I think that you can. I just don't remember the details.
Okay, all right, I'll check into it. Thanks, Anna.
Nice. So I think unless anyone else has any questions, I think that's all. So thank you so much for joining us.